Okay, the other thing you guys wanted was cheese. And oh my gosh, you French heathens, you love your bread and your cheese. So I thought I would show you how to make one of the easiest cheeses that you can make at home. It's an Indian style cheese. It's just a cottage cheese really, where cottage cheese doesn't mean like the stuff you put pineapple on for breakfast, but an easy house cheese. So all I've done here is heat up about a half a gallon of whole milk. You can do it with less milk than that if you want. And it's steaming, it's almost about to simmer, and so that's about perfect. We don't want to get it too hot necessarily, but it's fine to boil it. If that happens, it's just going to boil over and cause a big mess, and we know I don't like cleaning, so I'm trying to find all of the shortcuts around cleaning, and there's a lot of engineering solutions we can do. So with any cheese, the main thing you're trying to do is get the proteins and the fats to separate from each other, and mostly you're trying to get the fat to all stick together, with some of the proteins in there sticking together too, and some of the ones that aren't going to stick together, the soluble proteins, those are going to wash away, and that's okay. And that's going to go into what we call the whey, which is the stuff left behind after you get the cheese out. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get those things to coagulate. You can add things like rennet and cultures. And so anyone who's made yogurt before knows it's just a bacterial process where the bacteria do that coagulation for you to a certain extent, and so on and so forth. In this case, we are going to use a pH change. And that pH change is going to cause those proteins to change their structure, to stick together better. They're going to pull the fats with them, and then we'll wind up with a cottage cheese. So this process is really cool to watch. I've never tried it one-handed before, so wish us luck. I'm going to try to hold that perfect. I'm going to pour a little bit of the vinegar. Actually, I poured a lot of the vinegar. That's okay. So as I stir that, we should start to see the separation of the cheesy parts from the milky parts. And so we're already starting to see that. So we have adjusted the pH some, but we probably haven't adjusted it enough. But maybe we have. Look at that. It is all coming together. Can you see that? Oh my goodness. So, yeah. So we've got the yellow, runny whey stuff and the cheesy goodness white stuff. And I can't see at the same time that you guys are seeing, so I have no clue what you're actually looking at, because I haven't figured out how to film at home yet. Not by myself, not one-handed, but I will figure it out. So this is looking good. I'm just gonna turn the heat off and let that sit for a few minutes. And while that sits, we can try something else. And I'm sorry I keep putting my hand over the phone. I don't mean to. I'm going to turn this light back on so we get a little more light over here, where I can show you the other batch I already did with the other half gallon of milk. And so that's just in here. Oh, I am pouring it all over my cutting board. Let me do a better job here. I will show it to you like this instead. So now it should be really clear what you're looking at, because the lighting probably is a little better over here. You got cheesy goodness and yellow whey goodness. We have to separate those two. And so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour that into this. All this is a really straightforward colander that I have lined with cheesecloth. And I have done this enough times to know that when I pour that into here, it's going to suck that cheesecloth down and the ends are going to fall in. To prevent that, I have clothespinned it around the perimeter to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm going to set my phone up here so you can watch me do this part. And normally, so that I wouldn't have to do so much straining, I would scoop the stuff over. Feeling kind of lazy today. So I'm gonna go for just dumping it. Hopefully I don't make a mess. Oh, I'm making a little bit of a mess. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. Here, let me pour it the other way so you can actually see what's going on. There we go. You see all that cheese? 1 gallon of milk makes about 1 pound of cheese. Just that's about how many coagulatable solids are in any milk for the most part. Goat's milk or whatever. I'm trying to figure out what to do with this thing. Just throw it in the sink. Okay. So normally I would let this drain for a really long time, but I don't feel like it today because I'm also trying to show you a video of how to quickly make a cheese. And we've only been videoing for about 5 minutes, and about 4 of those were me just yakking away about the science of cheese making. Okay. It's still dripping. Try to get some of it to drip out. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna pull the clothespins off and do it the old-fashioned way. I just pulled up the corners of that bag of cheesecloth, and I'm gonna hold it from the top and squeeze just a little bit. You see it's draining. And I'm gonna keep squeezing here for a little bit, because it is gonna take a little bit of time, because normally I would just hang this to dry or drain. I don't want it really to dry out, I just want it to drain. I'd usually leave it for like an hour, because I usually have less patience than time to squeeze a big block of cheese. Squeezing, squeezing. Okay, I'm gonna open this up a little bit. And the easy way to make it tighten up, just hold it by the top and twist. And that's why whenever you buy mozzarella, it's usually coming in one of these sorts of packets for kind of a similar reason. If you're buying like high quality fresh mozzarella. You know, this is taking forever because I was really hoping this would be all dried out by now. And it is nowhere close. Okay, well this next process is gonna be fun. I'm gonna try to do it wet just so I can show you. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll drain it again and do this step again. And so we'll see, but I really wanted to be able to do this all in one take so it would be one easy video to share. So the next step that I'm gonna do is knead the cheese. Knead the cheese. Everyone needs cheese. Oh, well. Knead with an N, not knead with a K. All right, let me see if I can move my super high class, fancy dancy setup down here. Okay, so I've just got a cutting board out. It's got a drip tray around the outside. You see the drip tray. That's gonna help make this less messy. But while I'm at it, I'm also just gonna get a couple of like really old rags to help clean up. So to knead this, it's gonna crumble all over your kitchen. And the lighting here sucks. Why does the lighting suck? If I turn that light off, does it work? Ah, now you can see so much better. Okay, so basically I'm just gonna try to get in here and crumble it up some so that it does crumble but doesn't go all over my kitchen. I'm gonna try to keep it in the cheesecloth. And then I'm gonna try to knead it inside the cheesecloth. And I guess you don't have to knead it, but somebody who is from India who makes this cheese told me it was a good idea, so I listened, and now I do that too. And I guess the whole point here is to break up the crumbles and make them all stick together. So that's all I'm trying to do, is make it to where whenever I open the package, it doesn't crumble all over the kitchen, but kind of sticks together. I guess kind of like making biscuits, you want it to stick together. It'll just make the final product of your cheese smoother. If you don't do this step. I have found that it's very, very crumbly, and it's great if you want crumbled cheese. It's less great if you want a nice, smooth cheese. And this cheese is particularly wonderful if you can get it smooth, because you can then cut it into little squares and fry it and serve it in a cream and tomato sauce with some spices, whatever spices you want, I don't care. I like the Indian spices. I like Paneer, tikka masala. That's my favorite. But you could probably do it with an Italian creamy sauce as well. Okay, this is coming along nicely. So one thing that most cheeses need is salt. And traditional recipes that I have found for this cheese don't really call for it. But I find that I like it a little better with a little bit of salt. So normally it takes a full tablespoon of salt per 1 pound of cheese. I'm gonna go with a little less than that ratio, just because this is not traditionally supposed to be salted, but I do like just a little bit of salt in it. And that's my personal preference. And when it comes to salt, you should always go with your personal preference and not necessarily with what somebody else tells you is right, in my opinion. Unless you're cooking for someone else, and then, you know, just leave the salt out altogether and let them figure it out. There are salt shakers all over the place. Although I guess we don't get to go to restaurants anymore where they have salt shakers. In my kitchen, we have little mason jars filled with salt. One thing you want to be careful about is the liquid here is basically Elmer's glue in the end. Elmer's glue has a couple of other things in it, but milk glue is definitely a thing for sure. And so if it gets anywhere, you want to wipe it up and wash it down just a little bit, kind of immediately. So I usually do a full good kitchen clean immediately before, because I want to be able to pick up the nice little bits that go everywhere, and immediately after. Okay, so you saw how crumbly it was before. Now it's not so crumbly, it's more sticky, like a dough. So I'm gonna again do the thing where I pull up the corners of my cheesecloth, kind of ball it up into a little bit of a ball here, and then move this guy away and show you my next implement. This is just a cheese strainer. It's a cheese mold. Basically, it's a colander in a shape that makes a nice round block. So I'm going to shove this cheese down in here and really try to get it tucked into the corners down at the bottom. And then I'm going to open my bag back up, because now I'm looking to have a nice smooth top. And I'm going to layer this in as nicely as I can while pushing that cheese down to the bottom. I'll go the other direction, like that, and then over this way, and over this way. So the last step here is now we want to push out as much remaining liquid as possible and form this into that block so that we can chop it. And for that, I've got a kind of a crazy life hack tip here. I'm going to put down a piece of aluminum foil to protect my my cheese. And then I've got a bunch of 2-pound weights that I've wrapped in aluminum foil and then in saran wrap and then in another bag to keep them from getting cheesy messed up, to keep them stacked on top of each other, and then to also protect my cheese from any possible dirt that gets in there. So that's done. That's now going to sit for a while, and it's in a bowl to catch any of the liquid as it drains out. And as we saw, it was still pretty wet, so there's probably going to be a little bit of liquid that comes out of this. And I'll just check it once every half hour to drain out any remaining liquid, and then I will put it in the fridge after like 4 hours like this and let it sit overnight, and then tomorrow it should be ready to eat. And maybe I'll show you a recipe when it's ready. All right,